We'll also be hearing from scientists who are at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and in fact, Ira Flatow, longtime science correspondent for National Public Radio and also a host of Newton's Apple for many years, is in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory with Dr. Bruce Murray. Welcome, Ira.
Welcome. How are you? I have Dr. Murray here. For people who don't know, Dr. Murray is a professor of planetary science at the California Institute of Technology, and from 1976 to 82, he was director of JPL. He currently is author of Journey into Space, one of the few or the only book, Dr. Murray, that really talks about the story of Voyager, right?
Yes, and
history.
It's a true heroic story, and one that all of us, I think, share in and can enjoy.
Now, you were telling me that Voyager almost never happened. The whole history.
Right. It almost never happened for technical reasons. But if the two launch vehicles had been reversed, Voyager 2 wouldn't have had enough energy to get there.
But there are political reasons why it never happened.
Yes, even after the wonderful success at Jupiter, in which on the PBS network it became a sort of a pop art symbol of the red spot of Jupiter.
Right.
After going to Saturn and the wonderful rings of Saturn, that was the second encounter with Saturn was August 25th, 1981, almost precisely 8 years ago. Right at that time, right afterwards, David Stockman, Reagan's head of the OMB, following the orders of the boss, put out a plan that would have not only killed all new missions, but it would have stopped the funding for continuing Voyager on, cut back the DSN. And so we would not now be getting these pictures. The spacecraft would be going by dead without any interaction with the ground.
That's an interesting story. Another interesting story, and I know as we look at Voyager, and we've been watching it for 12 years, this is sort of the end of the golden age of space exploration. I mean, there are long tours of the not only the galaxy but of our solar system plan, right?
Yeah, Voyager was started, and the first money from Congress officially was in 1972, when there were still 3 American astronauts at the moon.
So there was a large...
So there was an Apollo carryover. It was still part of the age of exploration that Apollo created. In fact, almost all the robotic exploration that's taken place so far, with one exception, was created during that time.
While there was that great enthusiasm for space.
And then when we stopped exploring space with men, instead worried about making truck drivers out of them, which was a terrible mistake with the shuttle, there was a conflict of interest within NASA. And so we stopped the effort to explore space with robots or with humans until very recently. Last July 20th, the President has invited us to begin to consider going back to the moon and Mars. So the golden age has run out. It's been out for a long time. Voyager just doesn't know it.
No, it's
marvelous. And in my view, Voyager is a faint echo of John F. Kennedy's May 1961 speech. And he's gone, the times he was gone.
Why is there not that interest anymore? Why?
The interest has been there. It was a conflict of interest bureaucratically. The interest in the public is, just as now, has been unparalleled. But the bureaucrats and politicians were committed to a concept which was false, which was the shuttle was going to, having everything right up in the shuttle, was going to enable a marvelous new explosion in space. It didn't. It enabled an explosion over Cape Kennedy and killed 7 brave Americans, and made clear that that was a wrong policy, that shuttles should be used only to carry humans occasionally and when risk is important, and that for spacecraft to go to the planets, we should use other kinds of rockets, which are now starting to do.
They're now reevaluating that. They're now
it's not only reevaluated, it's already done. All the military payloads are on expendable rockets and so forth. But the tragedy was we sacrificed our golden age for this wrong.
You think?
Well, that's, the jury is out. At least the President has done what only the President can do. It says that America should go back to Mars, go back to the moon and then on to Mars with humans. Without that, nothing will happen. With that, we have a chance if all the different factions can be brought together, if we can make it international, so that there's a broad political appeal in the United States, not just in Florida and Texas and California.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Bruce Murray, who's the professor of planetary science at California Institute of Technology and author of A Journey into Space. A good place to learn about, to read about the Voyager. Back to you, Sedge, in Philadelphia.
Thank you very much, Ira Flatow, and we'll be returning to Ira Flatow throughout the evening as he's interviewing scientists and authors and commentators who are at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which has been attracting a good number of celebrities who have been stopping by in Southern California to see it there. And we're glad that you're with us here through the night for Neptune all night. Jessica von Puttkammer, of the images that are being sent from the Voyager 2. This has clearly been very carefully plotted out.
Well,
And
this, if they're still on schedule right now, we should be seeing again the ring arc region, the general region where the ring arcs have been discovered earlier, taken with a photometer, with a photopolarimeter, to measure the occultation of that star behind it. So that's still going on. They had 23 pictures, and at the same time of that, they're doing other experiments, but they're storing those data on the onboard tape. So there are lots of things going on at Voyager all the time, and it's not just sending pictures down, it's recording particles and fields and radio data continuously on an onboard tape recorder. That tape recorder stores up to maybe 2 hours of information, and then it has to be played back.
From the Franklin Science Institute, how are these pictures getting to us?
Well, the TV pictures and the other data, like the one we were just looking at from the photopolarimeter, are being sent by Voyager as radio signals, and they're actually numbers that are being received on Earth by radio antennas. And there are 3 main antennas that make up the Deep Space Network, and they're in Australia, Spain, and the Mojave Desert in California. And all 3 of those have been increased in diameter not long ago to aid with receiving these transmissions. And also New Mexico and Japan radio dishes are also receiving Voyager. And this technique of using many dish antennas is called arraying, and it's listening simultaneously with antennas that are separated by hundreds or thousands of miles. And this greatly improves the sensitivity of reception, and so you can get a lot better picture and data.
The area right now is about 4 football fields.
We're going shortly just back to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I want to talk more about those arrays of antennas, which are amazing sights in the landscape, when we come back after this interview that Ira Flatow has with the science writer Timothy Ferris, whose new book is called Coming of Age in the Milky Way. It's the story of exploration of space and of our understanding of the world beyond Earth. We go now to Ira Flatow.
Thank you, Sedge. I think Timothy will enjoy that plug you put out first. Thank you very much. One of the things that Timothy Ferris may not be remembered for is the fact that there is a record on board the Voyager and a plaque. And Timothy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the record, what's on it, and why you did it?
The record, Ira, contains 90 minutes of music and natural and so forth, and over 100 photographs in color and black and white that have been acoustically encoded and placed in the grooves of the record as well. The record has a projected life of well over 1 billion years, making it the most long-lived object, we think, ever created by humankind.
And it's the first object that's going to be heading out in that part of the galaxy?
Well, it's preceded. There are 4 interstellar spacecraft now that have kind of fallen out of the solar system inadvertently as the result of passing by the giant planet Jupiter, where they get a gravitational boost. The 2 Pioneers, which carried plaques, and now the 2 Voyagers. The realization having been that you can make a plaque that has a lot more information in the form of a phonograph record.
Now, as someone who planned all of this, how seriously do people take that there are intelligent beings out there who can will actually pick up the Voyager as they did in Star Trek the movie and actually be able to listen to the record?
I would say that your frame of mind is much like that of a child composing a note to put in a bottle. It's very serious, even though you don't actually anticipate that someone's going to find it. You have to take it seriously, even though every estimate, if there are 10 million civilizations flying from star to star, it's still very unlikely that anyone would come across it. But you have to take it seriously because it tells you something about yourself. It's a way of holding a mirror up to yourself at a distance and saying, we live on this one planet. And we are, in fact, tossing this spacecraft out into the void. And I think it says something nice about ourselves, that you do something kind of pointless, but
well, I have the same thought. I would say, well, as long as you're going out there, why not put a record on there and tell people that we're here? And you have, if I remember correctly from the record, and I think we'll be hearing parts of it as through the night, there's hell language or 100 languages or something like that.
Yeah, from all over the world.
And there are Earth sounds, or different sounds made that are all over Earth. There's even instructions how to play the record.
Yes. They're written in what we hope is a universal code, it's an interesting problem, you know, to try to communicate any information over a lot of space and time. You have to look at all of your symbols. One of the interesting questions, for instance, was how do you show which way the record goes? You know, normally we would use an arrow, but an arrow is an anthropomorphic symbol.
But is there a stylus on it, if I
There
remember
is a
correctly?
stylus,
So you have your own phonograph needle to play it.
Yeah,
If
it's
you-
easy to do that because, you know, a phono cartridge is so light.
Yeah.
And that sort of simplifies the problem of...
And it's digitally recorded?
No, it's
No,
an
it's an
analog
analog-
recording.
it's an analog
It's a
recording.
half-speed, mid-fi analog recording. It's already an ancient-looking technology, but that's the point, you know. This is not the ancient Egyptians did, where you inscribe tablets with the idea that they'll be preserved for a long time. And for that purpose, it's very good technology, actually.
You know, you hear you talk about Voyager, and one of the things, and you speak about, and a lot of people at JPL speak about Voyager as a person. They know it's a robot, and a very sophisticated robot, but they speak about it with such passion.
Well, so much human passion has been invested
Yes.
in it, and so much intelligence and effort. I mean, this mission really has taken on a position at the apex of some kind of impulse that we have, and that's widely perceived as being good for us. And so it does have that effect of bringing out the best in us and the most forward looking.
And people almost speak of it as as a relative. You know, that's someone that they have grown up with now for years, and they've been designing it, for at least 8 years before that. And it's almost a 20-year-old child now that they've been helping to nurture.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, you know, I can't say I, you know, think of it as my Aunt Betsy or something, but I never actually saw the spacecraft. I carried a record out here to be bolted onto it. What it does to me more is that it extends one's senses. There is a sense, look, you can, I never laid eyes on President Reagan, for instance, and yet I have opinions about President Reagan as a person based entirely on television. You can extend your senses, and that's what these spacecraft do. They extend our senses far out. We've had astronomers the last few days talking about how we have visited all the worlds of the solar system now. And they don't mean that we've gone there in flesh and blood, but something of us has gone there.
And it will continue out. Your record will go out into Sirius the Dog Star, and
Yeah.
80,000 years later, may get there.
It wanders among the stars forever, as much as forever.
Zach, do you
has any meaning.
have a little bit of immortality? Do you think a little bit of yourself is out there with?
I think a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.